My girlfriend's best friend kept texting her at midnight, and she said I was overreacting. Weeks later, photos proved my instinct wasn't jealousy. It was self-respect ringing an alarm. I didn't shout. I packed. Some truths don't need closure, just distance. I'm 31. I'm Nick. I run a window install crew in Tacoma. She's 29, Haley, marketing at an agency with kombucha taps and a We're a Family Slack channel. It started with late-night texts from her best friend Cole. You up? Look at this meme. Talk to me. My head's buzzing. My phone lit too, because our iPad mirrored hers from when we picked out backsplash tile. At 12:47 a.m., cartoon raccoons. At 1:12 a.m., a selfie of him in a beanie. Insomnia buddy? I asked to move the chats to morning. I got, you're overreacting, don't be controlling. Then came the past midnight bar hang at the Copper Latch. Her friends projected our engagement photos onto the TV between a Mariners recap and karaoke scores. Nick's giving PDA dad, one said. Someone else whistled. Haley sat in Cole's lap because he's my playsafe. Like a couch. Laughter. Toasts to real chemistry. A chant of his name. I paid our tab with the joint card and signed the receipt while her friend filmed. At home, I asked for boundaries. No midnight calls, no lap sits, and no Cole on our couch. Toxic jealousy, she said and posted a story. Some guys fear friendship. I sleep with a small ledger on my nightstand, hours, expenses, which vans need tires. That night, I added a new column labeled Lines. Under it, I wrote, midnight texts, public lap, story smear. Not rage, just the click of a pen. Self-respect pulled the fire alarm. The next week, Cole arrived with a box of board games and a succulent like he was staging an apartment. I missed my last bus, he said, already unlacing shoes. Haley motioned to the couch. He threw a blanket over his legs like a regular. I kept my voice low. Tonight's an exception. After that, we keep our place ours. She folded her arms. You're policing my friendships. Cole said, we're adults. I said, great. Then adult boundaries should be easy. He stayed, of course. At 2:03 a.m., their whispering became laughter. At 3:18, our cat batted a game die under the stove. At 5:06, my alarm for the warehouse run went off. In the kitchen, he was barefoot using our AeroPress. Don't worry, man. I'll replace the filters, he said, opening the wrong drawer. He tapped his phone. Haley, your man's intense. I was holding the service door for crew at 6:30 when she texted, if you need space, go to your mom's. I kept it procedural. After work, I checked our lease. My name only. We added her later as an occupant for parking, not a tenant. I pulled the signed PDF from my email, highlighted the clause in yellow. I inventoried living room keys, 2, bedroom key, 1, storage cage lock, combination 19-32-19, van fobs, 3. I set a hard rule. No overnight guests without both tenants' consent, meaning mine. I said it aloud to the hallway. It felt like tightening a torque wrench until the click. When I came home, Cole's shoes were again by the door. He had a banker's box now, and his skateboard leaned against the umbrella stand I bought at McClendon's. It's temporary, Haley said. His roommate's mad about utilities. He needs a landing pad. I breathed through my nose. Then he can land at a pad he pays for. I pointed at the lease on the counter. This is a 2-person ship. Her phone chimed. Group chat. Nick is being controlling again. A chorus. Ugh. Men don't get platonic intimacy. What's yours is hers. I replied to Haley, not the chorus. Cole leaves tonight. We can talk after. She typed, deleted, typed, you don't get to dictate. I said, I'm not dictating, enforcing what we already signed. She pivoted to history. He was there when my dad died, she said, pressing her hand to her throat. He sleeps better near people. I said, then he can be near people who signed for him. Cole, from the couch, murmured, that's harsh. The cat, as if on cue, curled in his lap. He looked like he owned the place. At 9:14 p.m., I moved the spare blanket back to the linen closet. At 9:20, I set the couch cushions upright. At 9:22, I snapped a photo of the lease and sent it to our email thread. At 9:30, I said, "Cole, I'll get you a ride." He smirked. Haley said I could stay. She watched my face like it was a live stream. I opened the window a notch. October air washed over the plant shelf. "I am not fighting," I said. "I am closing a door we left open." He left under protest. Slowly, loudly, like luggage with a broken wheel. Haley filmed the hallway for safety. I carried his box to the curb and set it by the curbside bin, careful to keep the contents intact. "You're making this adversarial," she said. "No," I answered. "I'm making it finite." I slept light. At 2:41 a.m., a notification. He'd tagged Haley in a reel from a diner booth, 2 milkshakes, 1 straw. Caption: platonically saving each other's lives. At 6:05, my crew group chat pinged. Pallet delay, reschedule the sunrise job. I poured coffee and wrote in the ledger. Boundary held. Expect retaliation. She woke at 7:12. "You embarrassed me," she said, barefoot on cold tile. I said, "You placed me." I pointed to the couch dent. "That's not a friend problem. That's a respect problem." She rubbed her arms, then typed furiously. My screen mirrored. "Men are so threatened." I watched my name become content. By lunch, I had a plan. I ordered a new deadbolt keyed to the bedroom only, so I could sleep without strangers 10 feet away. I moved her spare key to a lockbox with a 4-digit code she could have when we reset terms. I tightened the window latches, logged out the iPad from her Apple ID, and turned off home sharing so I wouldn't keep seeing midnight memes. Not punitive, protective. I wrote it all down. I labeled it Part 1, when the best friend moved in between us. And under it, a final line. If you need space, say space. If you need him, say him. If you need both, say goodbye. Cole became the backdrop every evening. His thrifted hoodie parked on our hallway hooks. His chipped diner mug orbiting my grinder like it had seniority. He accidentally left a toothbrush in the bathroom cup. I placed it in a zip bag labeled guest. He fished it back out, winked and said, "Guess I'm not a guest." I replied, "Correct, you're not." Public jabs piled up. At a rooftop birthday on 4th and J, Haley read my text out loud. "Come back early. I'm on a 6:30 install." And added, "That's his ceiling." Laughter. Someone clinked a white claw against a candle jar. Cole bowed. I smiled like a shop dummy and did the mental math for tomorrow's ladder rentals. At 11:42 p.m., I left without making a speech. The Uber driver had a cracked dashboard Madonna. She bobbled like a metronome of restraint. She forgot our anniversary and drove to Ocean Shores with Cole to breathe creative air. She sent a photo of dunes and captioned it, "Found oxygen." I sent a thumbs up and Venmo requested $89.12 for the non-refundable dinner deposit at Craft 19. She forwarded my request to her friends. The chorus, "Financially abusive, nickel-and-diming, let the girl live." I screenshotted, saved to a folder/receipts/anniversary_no-show. I kept proposing fixes like a contractor on a punch list. Therapy, a no texts after 10 p.m. rule. Firm limits on sleepovers, 0 unless both tenants agreed. "It's trust or it's you," she snapped, eyeliner perfect like a blade. I could hear our we scraping across the floor like glass. I still held on, but with gloved hands. Comparisons started arriving with breakfast. "Cole reads, dreams, builds," she said, picking sesame seeds off a bagel. "You just turn screws." I glanced at my hands. Scrapes, caulk lines, a crescent scar from a stubborn sash. "Those screws hold up houses," I said. "Dreams need hinges, too." She rolled her eyes so hard the cat retreated under the console table. At work, I stayed exact. I logged serials for the DeWalt impacts. I booked the fork rental for Thursday. I rejected a $1,600 lowball on a French door set. I added a column to my ledger called Erosion. Under it, rooftop jab, anniversary, toothbrush, comparison. On Tuesday, I installed a keyed knob on the office we never used and moved my grandfather's fluke multimeter, my passport, and the pink slip for the CB750 into the locked file. Boundaries aren't accusations. They're door frames. The retaliation turned digital. A meme in her group chat showed a caveman with a wrench. Caption: Nick when asked to feel feelings. Another described emotional labor taxes and tagged me. I saved them. 1:03 a.m. Cole DM'd Haley a song called Open Relationship. 1:05. She replied with star eye emojis. The iPad no longer mirrored, but our Apple TV still flashed previews when it idled. I saw enough to understand I was background on my own wall. Saturday, I cooked steak frites and made a salad with those tiny Persian cucumbers she likes. She was late. When the lock finally turned, Cole came in first, holding a foam core mock-up for some campaign. Anti-gatekeeping. He set it on my dining table. We're starving, he announced. Good thing Chef Nick plated. I said, this is dinner for two. He smirked, started fork shopping from the pan. Haley said, don't be petty. I made a decision as clean as a laser level. From now on, all joint groceries are for the joint. I said, guests bring or guests don't eat. He laughed. What are you going to do? Invoice me? I opened the Notes app and made a line. Guest consumption. $17.40. I didn't send it. I kept it like one keeps photographs of hairline cracks before the inspector visit. She shifted tactics. Long walks that ended at Cole's co-op. Work sprints that coincided with his open mic. Sleepovers rebranded as couch meditations. I set alarms by the pedigree of her excuses. 12:10 a.m. Team decompressing. 1:30. Missed last bus. 2:15. Don't wait up. I laid on my side of the bed like a witness. Sunday morning, I asked for three things. 1. Our home is a two-key space. 2. No overnights without mutual yes. 3. Relationship talk goes to a licensed third party. She stared past me at the fig tree. Your rules are walls, she said. I said, walls keep roofs up. Or trap people, Cole added from the hall where he'd been listening. I walked him to the door with a flat palm. When rent is due here, I said, you can comment on the architecture. The chorus arrived by lunch. Nick hates her passions. Nick's controlling. What's yours is hers. I responded to none of it. I moved money. Our joint checking stayed funded for rent and her usual utilities. I moved the buffer I'd kept for emergencies, $2,500, into my personal account labeled van repair. I removed her as an authorized user on my fuel card and texted, use the joint debit for gas. It's ours. Authorized user is not equal to joint owner. That's not a punishment. That's accuracy. By Wednesday, cracks became a map. She scheduled a cabin work retreat with Cole and two friends I'd met twice. The kind who introduced themselves with their astrology rising signs. For nights, she sent a Google Drive packing list that included silk sleep mask for Haley, earplugs for snorers, Nick. I wasn't invited. I was subtext. I considered begging, then pictured my ledger, the zip bag toothbrush, the steak fork. I didn't beg. Instead, I called my landlord at 2:02 p.m. Question about guest policy. I said. He reviewed the lease. Occupants named Haley. No subletting, no borders. Tenants can restrict guests at reasonable discretion. He emailed me the clause. I saved it to /receipts/lease_clause_guests and printed 2 copies. That night, I put both copies on the table and set a pen on top. I'm not banning your friend, I said when she came in. Cheeks flushed from wind or attention. I'm naming the line. Sign that we honor the lease and schedule therapy, or say you prefer the open door. If you pick the open door, I'm closing mine. She didn't sign. She took a photo of the paper instead. Captioned it. Ultimatums from men who can't meet you where you are. Likes bloomed. Cole sent a black heart. I looked at the table, at the pen, at my steady hands. Then I turned the paper over and wrote the date, the time, and this sentence. Erosion acknowledged. A few weeks later, she said, "Respect my freedom," and added that I shouldn't drop by her new Bellevue rental unannounced. I honored the space. I honored it so hard it echoed. Then my phone lit. A strip of photo booth kisses. Haley and Cole. Timestamp 12:11 a.m. The red curtain like a wound. An hour later, a suitcase shot on a gray rug. Hotel tag dangling. Portland River Inn. That was the weekend, she told me. With my mom. No service. I didn't request an explanation. I didn't stack screenshots into a case. I stood there in my work boots, feeling the shape of a door that had already closed. I did what I'm good at. Inventory. I opened the hall closet, pulled my Milwaukee pack out, slid in my squares and chisels, wrapped the fluke in a t-shirt. I checked the file for titles and passports. I photographed the living room, couch, plant shelf, TV stand, condition noted. I labeled a banker's box, Nick, office drawer, another kitchen, knives plus cast iron, and a third sentimental. Polaroids, ticket stubs, Dad's letter. I didn't take her mixing bowls. I left the framed print we chose at the Fremont Market. It was hers now in all the ways that mattered. I booked a month-to-month in Tacoma near the yard, industrial carpet, one window that faces a loading dock. The landlord, Tom, handed me a key that had 7B etched with a pocket knife. I paid first and last, $2,000 total, signed, and bought a cheap mattress and a kettle. I took the cat's photo off my lock screen so I wouldn't unlock my phone just to hurt myself. I kept the ledger. I like the weight of continuity. Her email hit at 9:03 p.m. This was an experiment in feelings. Don't make a tragedy out of curiosity. For paragraphs on how I policed what should have been fluid, how Cole saw her, how the rules I asked for were walls invented by fear. I read it once. I didn't reply. Some truths don't need closure. They need distance and sunlight to stop molding. I texted, "I'll pick up the rest on Saturday between 10 and noon. Leave the door latch open. I'll relock." She wrote, "Boundaries mean no unannounced." I said, "Announced. Saturday, 10 to 12. She sent a thumbs down and then a calendar invite labeled, "Final Extraction." I accepted. Cole added a heart. I set my 5:30 alarm anyway. Saturday felt like a job site. I parked the van on the yellow line, rolled a dolly over the threshold, moved steadily. I took the CB750 title, my drill press vise, the mason jar of screws that don't match anything anymore, and the 2 mugs my sister made. I wiped the counter because it's easier to act like a grown-up when your hands are doing grown-up things. Cole stayed on the balcony, shirt off in February, pretending to be unbothered. Haley filmed me once, slow pan like I was a time-lapse of erosion. I kept my face calm. I didn't do commentary. She tried for a last-minute reframe. "We almost had it," she said, hugging herself. "You turned it into a courtroom." I nodded like I'd heard a weather report. "I wish you well," I said, because I do. Wishing someone well is cheap and honest. It doesn't bounce. I left the keys on the table. I left the spare fob on top of the lease copy with the highlighted guest clause. I left a folded note. Utilities through end of month paid. Mail forwarding on. Please don't sign for packages with my name. I carried the last box out at 11:57. In the hall, the light hummed with that anxious ballast buzz. The elevator took its time. The new place smells like MDF and lemon cleaner. I set the kettle on, unrolled a rug my aunt sent, and leaned the CB tank against the wall like art. I put the ledger on the counter and wrote, "Relocation complete. Silence chosen." I turned off my phone for an hour. The room made a small, good sound, refrigerator, street tires, my breath. Back on, a final ping. A group text screenshot where someone wrote, "He'll regret losing a woman who demands expansiveness." I didn't regret anything in that moment. I put on ear protection and cut 2 inches off a door at the shop so it would clear a swollen jam. The circular saw wind clean. The line was straight. The board didn't argue. The air filled with the smell of pine and truth. On Monday, I updated accounts. I changed addresses on my license and insurance, removed her as an emergency contact at the clinic, and set up autopay from my own checking for my own place. I closed the shared storage unit and moved my boxes to 7BS hall closet. I kept one shelf empty for the future on purpose, like a promise to a man I hadn't met yet, me, but steadier. When I finally slept in 7B, the loading dock light painted a square on the wall. I lay in that quiet geometry and thought about hinges. Doors don't hate the rooms they leave. They swing, they close, they keep weather out. I didn't shout. I didn't perform. I turned the knob, stepped through, and let the latch catch. My feed turned into their showroom. Cole plus Hale, creative in Helvetica over beige. Latte art spelling work smarter. Reels of them high-fiving under Edison bulbs. Captions, synergy that changes brands. We're not an agency. We're a movement. I muted them and still saw them because friends reposted like it was civic duty. A whisper reached me over a parts counter. They'd opened a joint business account for flexible cash flow, took deposits from 3 small businesses, promised brand overhauls in 21 days. I kept quiet and worked. I landed a 24-window replacement at Sunrise Elementary. Pella Impervia, Low E, bronze hardware signed for $68,400 net, 40% paid on PO. I hired a 5th installer, Raina, who ties her tape to her belt with red paracord. I paid off the van, $11, $217 left on the note, then ordered new ladder racks from Uline and boots for the crew. The barroom humiliation felt like a trailer for a movie I no longer watch. I was busy building sets for a different film, one where the walls plumb and the doors latch. Their movie started to hiss. A cafe owner I'd replaced a transom for, Nora from Cedar Mug, DM'd me at 8:14 p.m. You know Haley? Paid $2,500 retainer. Zoom kickoff was fire. Then 30 days of vibes. No assets. She attached a Google Drive with a single mood board, beige circles, a stock hand holding a fern. They keep saying iteration. I need a menu by Friday. I sent back, I don't do design, but I'll hang whatever you print. I screenshotted and filed /receipts/H and C/cedar mug retainer. A yoga studio texted my work phone by mistake. Hi Cole. Zelle $1,800 just sent. Can we see the deck? Because my number still lives in old group chats as Nick Reliable. I replied, wrong Nick, then saved their screenshot of a bank transfer with memo, brand Sprint. Later, the studio owner called from a blocked number and asked, carefully, do you think they're legit? I said, I think they're learning on your dime. She sighed. My dime is small. Haley's threads got longer. Risk and freedom. Old world versus creative fluidity. Cash flow is a river, not a tank. Between the lines, I could hear the scrape of an empty pitcher. One slide read, clients who demand certainty are not our clients. Another, deposits equal trust. In the comments, a florist typed, we trusted. Where's the logo? Cole replied with a black heart and a quote about the process. I recognized the smell, not coffee. Smoke behind a pretty facade. At 6:07 a.m. before a Lakewood install, I checked Washington's business lookup from muscle memory. No Cole and Hale creative on record. A DBA filed 2 weeks prior under H plus Co Concepts, registered agent. A mailbox store on 148th. Not illegal, just flimsy. I wrote it in the ledger like recording humidity. H plus Co Concepts. Mailbox RA, deposits up front. Facts cool the blood. More drips. A brunch spot posted new menu soon, then quietly deleted it. A brewer friend said their launch deck got blown. A PDF sent to the wrong vendor with another cafe's logo still on page 2. The brewer asked for revisions. Cole answered with a poem about iteration as a spiral. The brewer charged back $1,200 on Stripe. I know because he vented at the supply house and held nothing back. They talk like TED Talks and invoice like landlords, he said, signing for CO2 canisters. Meanwhile, my world made the simple, good noises. Raina set shims with a carpenter's pencil in her teeth. Manny ran ledger totals like a metronome. I submitted OSHA logs on time. I printed a crew goals sheet. 2 safety stand-downs per month. No ladders over the 3rd rung without a spotter. 5% of each check into a repair sinking fund. I set $350 auto transfer each Friday into van_replace_2027. Piece looks like 6 identical receipts in a row. Then Cedar Credit Union called me by mistake. Caller ID thought my number was still attached to Haley's old profile from when we shared logins for utilities. We have several disputes on H+Co concepts checking, the woman said. I interrupted. Wrong person. She apologized, but not before adding, if you talk to them, tell them to pick up. In the voice bankers use when accounts turn into homework. I hung up and wrote, bank trying to reach them, disputes, smoke thicker. Friends tried to bait me. You seeing this chaos? One texted, attaching a reel of Cole talking about killing the brief. I responded with a photo of our van odometer rolling over 150,000 and the paid-off note with 0.00 printed neat as a snow day. Another friend said, take a victory lap. I said, I'm eating my sandwich. On a Wednesday, the florist who'd commented under Haley's thread walked into Sunrise while we were glazing and asked if the principal knew any good sign people. She looked tired in that small business way. Wrists banded by rubber bands, eyes like someone counting cents in her head. I gave them $900, she murmured. Now I have branded nothing but a hole. I lent her my folding chair, gave her a pen, and wrote down 2 names who do honest vinyl faster than theory. She cried, quick and embarrassed, then stopped. Thank you, she said, which is worth more than a parade. That night, Haley posted a carousel. Latte, laptop, her bare feet on a desk. Cole with a Fuji X100V. The caption, building the future with my favorite mind. I looked at the CB tank leaned against my 7B wall and thought about engines. Pretty is a coat. Function is compression. When compression fails, the engine hisses before it seizes. My feet hissed. I didn't gloat. I stacked storm windows in the shop, labeled each frame with blue tape, wrote delivery dates that match reality. I put a roll of cash in the safe, tip from a client who liked that we swept our own dust, then texted the crew, Friday lunch on me. El Saison. I slept hard and dreamless while, somewhere north, slogans smoked. Monday at noon the phone rang. Haley's voice cracked. Nick, please, 15 minutes. It's not about us, it's bad. I said, 15. In a Seattle cafe she looked storm-wrecked. Smeared makeup, wrinkled coat, shaking hands that couldn't land on the table. She slid into the booth and stared at my coffee like it might explain gravity. Cole is gone, she said, swallowing. Office emptied. Joint account drained. $55,800. My savings and a loan from my mom. She pushed her phone across the table. Screenshots. Balance $55,800 Friday. $0 Sunday at 3:02 a.m. His phone's dead. Site redirected. LinkedIn wiped. The storage unit key was under a rock. The unit is empty. He took the camera, the Mac, the ring light. He left the succulent. Deposits from clients had been routed to a business debit where she wasn't a co-owner. For taxes. She said it like a defense that kept collapsing. He said it would keep my W-2 clean, she whispered. He said if my name was on everything, my day job would put me on blast. Her day job put her on leave anyway. Under her signature they found creative stats she couldn't defend. He wrote them, she said. I copied. I know that's not an excuse. She pressed her thumbs into her eyelids. My mother is texting me bank emojis. The police? I asked. Report filed, she said. They called it a complicated civil issue. She showed me the case number and a business card. A detective who looked tired even in print. My bank says the account owner was H+Co Concepts LLC. Registered agent a mailbox. I'm not on it, just the stripe. The accountant says the transfers were internal settlements and might not be reversible. She reached for my hand. I slid my cup aside. The ceramic made a soft chalkboard noise against the table. I messed up, she said. I believed blindly. Can I come back? Home. She said home, like it was an elevator button she could push to go down to the last safe floor. I kept my voice even. Which home? Her breath hitched. We both knew the answer. The Tacoma place is mine, 1 key with 7B scratched in it, 1 kettle, 1 ledger. The old apartment is a stage set with our plant shelf and a lease clause I highlighted for no audience. I need a shower, she said, eyes bright with panic. I need quiet. I need you. The U landed like a debt collection letter. Sit, I said. Drink water. She sipped, hands quaking so hard the ice knocked. I opened my notebook and wrote what I heard. Dates, amounts, domains, the name of the mailbox store, which clients had charged back, which retainers were now reimagined. Procedure makes error. I thought we were building a life where work and love meant the same thing, she said. He said we were post-permission. I nodded once. Post-permission is a con, I said. Adults write their names on the forms that match their promises. She winced like I'd tapped a bruise. You warned me, she said. I mocked you. I'm sorry. The apology was not a key. It was a photograph of one. What do you need right now? I asked. She looked to the window. A floor I can sit on without explaining myself to the internet. Okay, I said. You can sit on mine for 1 hour. After that, we call your mother together and you tell her the number. We write a list. We divide it into police, bank, HR, and rent. You shower. You don't move in. Her mouth opened, then closed. 1 hour. 60 minutes, I said, tapping my phone timer. No captions. No we. Just triage. She nodded, small, like a student instructed to show work. At 1:12 p.m., we were in 7B. She stood on my carpet like it might reject her. I handed her a towel, pointed to the bathroom, put the ledger on the counter, and pulled a legal pad. Headings: bank, dispute, police supplement, employer statement, landlord notice. I added mom loan. I wrote $55, 800, then underlined it twice. Numbers are sober. They don't clap. She cried in the shower, sound dragged through running water. I made tea and texted the crew that I'd be 20 minutes late to the bid walk. Raina replied with a thumbs up and, we got the ladders. I felt gratitude steady me like a harness. She came out in steam and my spare t-shirt, small again. Thank you, she said. I set the timer where she could see it. 38:19. We're calling the bank, I said. We called. I spoke when she stalled, repeated when the line crackled, wrote the claims numbers. We called the detective, left a message attaching invoices and the mailbox RA. We drafted a statement for her employer owning what she'd signed, asking to submit a correction plan instead of posture. We called her landlord to ask about sublet rules. She wrote no and didn't crumble. At 0:07, we called her mother. Silence, then breath, then a small sob through the speaker. We will repay you, I said into the air so someone would put that sentence on the table. We will build the plan on paper. The timer chirped. I stood, opened the door, and handed her the folded list. This is as far as my door goes, I said. I wish you well in a louder way than before. She looked at me with something like comprehension, something like loss. I chose poorly, she said. I chose noisily, I said back. Now choose quiet. She stepped into the hall, clutching the pad like a raft. When the latch caught, I wrote a new line in the ledger. Vanish acknowledged. Money counted. Boundary intact. Then I put on my boots and drove to measure a bay window large enough to hold a life without slogans. I forgive you, I said, but my home isn't an evacuation shelter, and forgiveness isn't an eraser. The sentence sat between us like a folded tarp, useful, not warm. She nodded too fast, then shook her head, then pressed her fists to her temples like she could rub out choices. He's a predator, a manipulator, she said, swearing like punctuation. He targeted my softness. I poured water into the kettle and watched the coil glow. Coal didn't teach you to betray, I answered. He spotlighted what you already believed, that our everyday life was too small for your bigness. She flinched at betray, then stared at the floor like it might tell a different story. I wanted more, she whispered. More what? I asked. Noise, she said after a long beat. Applause. Rooms where they clap when you arrive. I let the kettle click. Then go find a room that claps for what you sign, not what you post. I gave her a list, not a lecture. Bank, keep every claim number. Police, supplement with invoices. Lawyer, consult about the Mailbox LLC and the joint brand mess. Therapy, weekly, non-negotiable, not a hashtag. Mom, numbers first, shame later. I wrote phone numbers and left space for dates. I didn't give her keys. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm protecting me. She cried hard then, that unpretty cry that fogs your mouth. Please don't make me do this alone. You'll have professionals, I said. If you need a name, I'll send 3. If you need a truck on moving day, I'll loan it and a dolly. If you need my couch, it's unavailable. Kindness with edges. Boundaries that click. After she left, 7B felt wider. I put the list copy in the ledger and highlighted lawyer. I texted Raina the bid walk photos. She replied with a circle drawn around a rotted sill and, we'll sister it. Manny sent a meme about Kaka's makeup. I sent back a picture of my tape measure laid across a threshold, 36 inches, true. The project calendar on the wall looked like a calm river. Boxes, arrows, names, checks. Peace is the sound of a stapler closing. I went back to the shop that evening. The crew was laughing in the locker area over a crooked ladder story from this morning. Someone had saved me a plate from El Cezanne, al pastor and lime. I hung my jacket, stamped the mud off my boots on the rubber mat, and put the week's schedule under the magnet with the tiny fish. Thursday, sunrise punch list. Friday, French doors at the green bungalow on K. Monday, bid 2 storefronts, 9 and 11. I breathed that regular air. Dust, lemon cleaner, cumin from someone's lunch. You can live on this air. I moved money with deliberate clicks. Sinking fund topped up. Payroll queued. Vendor net 15 set to auto. I added $50 to human. Small joys. The envelope I dip into for surprise donuts and extra gloves. I paid the county B&O like it was a thank you note to the pavement. I looked at each confirmation screen until the success checkmark landed. Work you can't zero out with one swipe becomes ballast. At home, I wiped the counter and set a single bowl to dry like a visual thesis. I plugged in the drill batteries even though they were mostly full. I turned my phone face down and listened to the building settle. A text glowed through the glass anyway. Haley, booked lawyer. Therapy Friday. Bank escalated. Mom cried but said, we'll handle it. Thank you. I typed good. Then deleted it. Then sent good. Courtesy, not a tether. My sister called to ask how I'm sleeping. Flat, I said, like a board that found studs. She laughed that brave laugh and said she'd bring a plant for 7B that even I couldn't kill. Snake, I said. Steel, she corrected. It survives insults. We said goodnight in the old shorthand of siblings who learned to read ceilings together. On Saturday, I rebuilt a sticky pocket door at the Lakewood job. The rollers were worn. The track had a burr. I pulled the slab, sanded the rail, replaced hardware, rehung. The door slid into its pocket without complaint and stopped with a quiet, final kiss at the jamb. I stood there for a second, palm on the edge, and thought about statements disguised as apologies, about words like fluid used as crowbars. Letting go isn't the same as letting history repeat. Letting go is closing the pocket and labeling the track. She texted again that evening. I keep thinking about the couch dent. I didn't answer. She followed with, I understand now. Understanding is a receipt. It's not a refund. I put my phone on airplane and scrubbed the utility sink. It came clean in satisfying rings. The center stain never really leaves. I chose the small lane. The lane with invoices that match labor, with bolts tightened to spec, with vans that start at 5:30 because they were fueled the night before. She wanted an equal. Her level came with fraud and a getaway. My level is foundation and drainage, gutters pitched to keep rot from the sill. We were never arguing about romance, we were arguing about load paths. Some truths don't end with a perfect bow. They end with a door that closes softly but finally and a few miles of quiet between stories. I turned the deadbolt, set my alarm, and laid my ledger next to the bed. Tomorrow's first line was already written in my head. Measure twice. Believe patterns. Protect the frame. I slept in that sentence and woke before the bell, ready to carry it into lumber and light.